just use the numbers easy. If you're a 10% business, net business, using for easy round numbers, that's $400,000 in revenue.
And then we'll have, younger people like myself who come in and they really don't care. They just want their car fixed and they want to be back on the road.
When they walk in the door and it's $5.29 and 10 cents, that's what it is. There's no extra fee.
Like as long as the customer has a good education on their car, as far as what they need to do going forward or what they need to do now, then that's set. Welcome to the Garage Grit Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Herlock of AA Shop Marketing, a digital marketing company for repair shops. And today we have another SOP, another shop owners panel, where we're going to be talking about dual pricing or passing the credit card fees on to your customers. Should your shop be doing that? Should your shop not be doing that? We've got a handful of different perspectives, and hopefully we'll have a fun discussion on how we're doing it, our experiences with it, and so on. But here, before we get into that, let's actually remind you that there is a Facebook group, the Garage Grit community on Facebook. And if you're a shop owner or a manager, you can jump into that. We'll gladly add you to it. And the goal for that is to continue these conversations. And so if you have questions about something that you heard, then maybe the community can jump back and find you an answer for you. So that's the plan for that. So please hop out and check that out. Just as another heads up, if you are trying to grow your shop, if you're trying to improve your shop, then this is a good podcast for you to be tuning in. This is not just this episode, but definitely this episode, but also all the other episodes, our entire library. We're trying to help as many shops as possible. But if you're just trying to maintain, if your attitude is, I've got plenty of customers, I don't need any more, and you're just kind of, going along, then don't waste your time. You don't need to be listening to this. Go listen to some music or something. But if you're trying to improve, then this is the right spot, and I'm glad you're here. Keep listening. Without any further delay, let's introduce the guests that we have on our SOP, our shop owners panel. And so let's start with Lou. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your shop and where you're at?
Sure. My name's Lou Cannata, second generation owner of my family business, Lou's Car Care and Fleet Services. We've been in business for our 49th year in business this past June. Our footprint, as you asked, currently in about another month, I'll have 16 bays with our expansion that came out. My facility in total is roughly around 27,000 square feet. I have also a collision center that I lease to an uncle that runs that business. We were in that business for a number of years. I have a passion for this business. I love the business. I love helping people, and I'm again grateful to be on your podcast today.
Well, I'm glad you're here too. And I've got a whole list of questions that made me curious about that. And we're going to have to talk about that maybe at another time. But just out of curiosity, did you say that you're growing to 16 bays, 16 lifts?
It just added 3 more on the heavy side. So I built a facility that they will house. I have a 30,000 pound drive on, a 20,000 pound 2-post. And I have a flat bay for now that we'll use to give us more capacity. We went into fleet repair just about a year, really focusing on growth. I'm not in a metropolis where I live, so the strategy we took was to go and get it, and that's through fleet repair.
Okay, interesting. Now, did you have any pushback from the local municipality when you tried to add on?
No, not at all.
Oh,
I have quite a bit of property here. I've got over 10 acres.
Okay.
On my site, so
Okay.
we've added about another half acre of parking as well in this expansion we're doing now.
So I've heard so many stories where shop owners are having that kind of pushback when they try to expand, even if it's their own property. And I only mention that because the next SOP in October of 2025 that's scheduled is talking about dealing with the local municipality. And so I find it interesting. Well, it's great that you didn't have the issue, but I find it interesting that you brought it up because it is a common issue where they butt heads against and try to work out those details. So just a quick plug for the next SOP. So listen to this one first, though, because we're going to be talking about your own finances. And that's why we're going to continue to introduce Kevin. Kevin, why don't you tell us about you and your shop?
Sure. Thanks again, Brad, for having me on. Kevin Millevoi, Millevoi Tire Automotive. Also, second generation. We just celebrated 58 years back in May. Multiple shops in the family, but this one is mine. I have a 5,000 square foot shop, 5 techs, 2 service advisors, 1 service manager.
Maybe your latest video, and you talked about your history, and then I thought, oh man, maybe your latest video and you talked about your history. And then I thought, oh man, I should know all that stuff going in here to ask you the questions. But
Okay. Yeah, we were talking about that, about how everyone outside of the Philadelphia area considers Bensalem to be part of Philadelphia, but it's a little cutout that's a little bit north of the City Line Avenue. And I'm sorry, how many cars did you say you're processing in a month?
About 400.
400. Okay. All right. Mitchell, how about yourself? Tell us about your shop out there in Colorado.
Yeah, so I'm the manager of Maple Garage here in Denver. We're just a little bit south of downtown. Right now we have full 4-time employees, including myself. Honestly, kind of rebuilding the shop in a lot of ways and trying to grow it. Right now we have typically array about 12 bays, including the alignment rack. Right now we're seeing anywhere between, say, 30 and 60 cars.
Okay. All right. Nice. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you. And Kevin, meet Mitchell, and Mitchell, meet Kevin, and Kevin, meet Lou, and Lou, meet Kevin, and Mitchell, and vice versa. And so we're going to kick off this conversation by just by asking real quick each of you whether or not you are passing credit. I mean, we're assuming that everyone's taking credit cards, of course. And is that the only payment that you're taking? Or do you also take ACH? Or do you also take Venmo? Or do you also take other payment forms? And then whether or not you're passing along the processing fees, those discount rates, as the credit card companies like to call them, are you passing them on to your customers? Kevin, how about if you go first?
We are taking credit cards. We take cash on the rare occasion that you see it. We do a lot of fair amount of SNAP financing and Easy Pay financing. With that, there are no fees, no credit card fees, obviously. So, and no check. So credit cards mainly. After that would be the financing, and then cash currently.
Okay. Lou, how about yourself?
Same, accepting credit cards. We do not pass along the fee at the moment. It's something we've been paying close attention to. And cash, check very limited. We take check again from really long-standing customers. Probably, credit cards probably represent a good 80 to 85% of our payment revenue.
Okay. All right. Mitchell, how about you?
Yeah, similar to Lou, we do a lot of credit card payments. That's our majority of what we see. We do not do checks or any SNAP financing. So typically it's either cash or credit card.
Okay. And are you passing the fee for the credit card onto the customer?
Yes.
Okay. Are you giving them the option to pay another means, maybe another means electronically, like Venmo?
Not at the moment. Right now, if the customer wants to pay cash, then we'll pull off the credit card fee.
Okay. So I'm thinking about that. I mean, in a way, by passing the fee, you're promoting an alternate way, right? Like you're saying, hey, you got to pay this 3%. It's just how it is. Or you could pay cash and then you can avoid it. How often are people reaching into their wallet and pulling out cash?
A lot of the times it's our long-term customers that are paying cash. I would say it's roughly 5 to 8% of our customers. So it's really a small percentage.
Pretty small. Pretty small. All right. I'm just wondering, I was talking to somebody about this about a month ago, and we kind of pointed out, he was like, where I'm at in this city, I don't know that I want to be known for having a lot of cash. It was a pretty obvious security issue. And he's like, the walk down the street to my bank. So that's interesting. I know that a lot of times it comes down to the average repair order. I mean, if your average ticket is higher than if you're say a tire shop and your average ticket is plugging tires, then I've got $40-$50, no big deal, right? But if your average ticket is more, do you guys is it okay if we share your average ticket? Is that too much? Is that too personal?
No, fine by me.
All right. So who wants to go first?
My average ticket's around $550.
Okay.
Mine is $650.
Okay.
Say ours is closer to $450.
Okay. And a lot of that is is market requirements, right? So those aren't comparable numbers just straight up to each other. You have to pay attention to, what your competition's doing in your town. I know that there are some coaching programs where they're like, let's get the ARO up, 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 up. And there's some value to making sure that you have the correct ARO for your shop and your market. There's definitely value there. And increasing it has value. Obviously, there's more money in your pocket potentially. But it all comes down to taking care of the customer, in my opinion, right? Like as long as the customer has a good education on their car as far as what they need to do going forward or what they need to do now, then that's set. Okay. So Mitchell, how long have you guys been taking, doing it this way, passing the fee on?
The previous manager was here for about 7 years, and I pretty recently assumed this position more at the beginning of the year, and I haven't changed anything as far as like credit card processing fees. I've basically just implemented what was in place previously.
All right. So do your customers push back? How often are customers like, what is this fee? Is it just the new customers?
It's pretty infrequent that customers are, asking us about the fees. A lot of times, like we have basically a shop fee and then a hazmat fee, and the shop fee covers basically it builds into the cost as far as our credit card fees. But then our hazmat fees covering, any oil disposal, tire disposal, that type of deal.
Well, that's interesting. So that, if I understand you right, did you say that your the discount rate fee, the credit card fee, is included in the shop fee, or is it a separate line item?
Correct. It is not a separate line item. It is included in the fee.
Okay. And so now I'm wondering how often the customers are even aware that they're paying that credit card fee, or if it's just part of the shop owners. I mean, Kevin and Lou, do you guys have shop administration fees?
We do. We have shop supplies, hazmat fees, as a percentage of each invoice, up to a certain amount. I am
curious, if you're open to sharing, what's the percentage you charge?
I'm 3% on parts, 3% on labor, up to, I'd have to look exactly. It's under $20 on each one. I'm trying not to overcharge on that kind of stuff. But it's generally under $20 on each labor and part side of the invoice.
Yeah, I charge. Oh, go ahead. I charge 3% with a cap of $39.86. In New York State, we could not. If we have to do credit card, it's got to be very specific. And I believe there's credit card processing machines in New York State it's processed through there, so that doesn't even hit us. So it would be charged on top of the client. So I wouldn't have to put that on my invoice. There's some specific rules in New York State, which I know are different. And TechMetric, our point of sale system, does not. We use Tech Merchant as well, so they do not have that type of integration. So I'm not quite sure how we would charge for that at the moment, other than increasing the cost, in the mix somewhat.
I understand it right. The different states have different rules as far as how you are presenting that you are passing that fee along.
Yeah.
And so there are some states that I would imagine require it to be a line item as opposed to bundled in. I've had people tell me that we'd just increase, if we wanted to do that, we could just increase our shop fee, our shop supplies fee. And I found that to be interesting, but you need to be aware of your state rules before you actually kind of do something like that. So, all right. So the POS is a part of this decision-making process, right? Because that's what's holding you back from actually increasing it more, Lou, or having.
I'm not ready to charge clients. And I was actually interested. I did before getting on here, I took my fiscal year starts in March. So I took my credit card fees up into August 31st. And then I divided that by how many transactions I had between credit card, Klarna, Sunbit, and it broke out to basically, it actually was less than what I thought. It was $15.26 per credit card transaction. It's what I paid. So I've looked at it as a total, but I never actually looked at it as per credit card transaction on average. And that's where it comes out to be $15.26. So when I look at that, there's other ways that we can recoup that in a variety of different ways, but it was a lot less than what I thought. I roughly pay about 2.2%, per transaction is what I average. I validate that every month. Every month I have a spreadsheet that when I do my end of the month, I put all that in to make sure, one, that that I'm holding them honest, that they are charging me what they tell me they were going to charge with my credit card fees. So I do that every month, and it gives me a good, just allows me to know where I'm at. And this here was, again, that's something I think pretty easily to recoup $15 a ticket, which will equate to, we'll have just about 40,000 this year in credit card fees, is where we'll end up probably.
Right. Mitchell, what POS are you guys using over there?
We're using TechMetric.
Okay. All right. And what did you say your shop supply fees percentage is?
We're at 5% on parts and
5%.
labor.
Okay. Yeah. So there's definitely a larger amount. Oh, parts and labor.
So parts cost.
Okay. So right. So it's definitely an extra 2% in there compared to Kevin's shop. Okay. But it's not anywhere listed on there, or do you have it listed inside the description of the shop supplies is what's included? Like, what does that look like on the invoice for all of you guys? Just ask each other and talk to each other about this, but what does it look like? What is TechMetric spitting out for shop supplies? Is that all it is? Shop supplies, X%, or does it kind of give a description of what's included in that?
You can set it up differently, how you want it to come out on the invoice. Whether you want fees on there, shop supplies, or just add it into a total. So we try not to put that on there, so we just add it as a total. But I'm in Pennsylvania, and we can do that. I don't know about the other states.
What do you have going on over there?
Yeah, so we call it fluids and hardware. Shop supplies are not allowed in New York State, so it's a separate labor line. It's called RO fees when you look at our ticket, and it says fluids and hardware, and then it's either capped out at $39.75 or 3% of parts and labor of the ticket.
Okay. All right. And Mitchell, how are you actually spelling it out?
It's just listed on the invoice as total fees.
Okay. All right. And Kevin, have you ever considered trying to pass on the fee? How did you land where you landed? You're pretty much against it. I could kind of got that vibe.
Yeah, just talking to customers and then my own feeling when I'm buying things. I've always said this business is kind of the bitch business. Nobody prepares for a water pump. But when they walk in your door and their water pump's leaking, you got to put a new one on. They're already incurring the cost, the aggravation of being without their car. They have to go do whatever they have to do to manage that day. And now you're hitting them with a fee on top of it. I just feel like you're adding insult to injury. So I don't want to nickel and dime a customer. We give them a price up front, exactly what it's going to cost. And those fees are included in there. Not my credit card fees, but my hazmat and my shop supplies fees. So when they walk in the door and it's $5.29.10, that's what it is. There's no extra fee. So I didn't want to, and based on my own experience too, if I've been to a restaurant or whatever, wherever, and somebody wants to hit me with a fee at the end of it, I just kind of feel like, I don't know, I don't feel great about that experience. And when they walk out of our shop, the last thing they want to think about is the extra $2.50 we charge them on top of what they already paid for a credit card fee. I just feel like that lasting impression might leave a bad taste in their mouth. And yeah, the work was great and the timing was perfect, but now they hit me with a fee, and that's what they feel. That's the last thing they feel when they walk out of our shops, is whether we hit them with a fee or not.
Now, dual pricing is allowed in all 50 states, but in Pennsylvania, it's kind of I don't know if it's more common, but it seemed to be when I looked up different things that it was a little bit more common. I kind of want to ask you, based on what you were just talking about, as far as I can appreciate where you're coming from as far as that customer, right? Having that feeling. Now let's rethink it. If you told them up front, it's going to be $529.10 if you pay by cash, Venmo, and list 3 other ways of payment. But if you pay by a rewards card with your Visa card, it's going to be, what's the math on that? 15, 5. I mean, not a lot more money, but it's going to be more money, right? So, I mean, I should probably pull out the calculator. This is why I tell my son that you can't actually rely on the calculator. You need to be able to do these things in your head. And so, let's see here. Yes, I thought it was 15. So if you told them that up front, before they even came in, before they even authorized the work, that it was going to be either $529 or $540 545 or 544 and change. How do you think they would respond then, knowing that they could choose which way to pay?
That's a great question. I don't know because I don't offer it. But if I mean, I guess it could go either way. Not everybody has access to cash, um, especially for this type of a business. It's usually a pop-up problem. So if they're budgeting for their oil changes, maybe, but all of a sudden their car breaks down, they need to get it fixed today. They don't have time to go to the bank. The car's dead. So it might pose a problem. I try not to give them too much of a headache when they're thinking about their car repair. Basically, they walk in their door, and I train my technicians and my service advisors to basically take their problem and make it their own and go fix it that day. Get that car fixed quickly. Over communicate with them. Let them know what's going on, and make that process smooth. So last thing I want to do is hit them with, "I'm already giving you a price. Now I'm going to give you a choice on how you want to pay for it." Um, and maybe it works. I don't feel like it'll work for me knowing my buying habits. If somebody said, "Hey, it's $500, but I'll give it to you for 450 if you pay me cash." And listen, I love the cash side of things. If I'm doing a big job at the house, maybe that works. But I just feel like when I'm talking to a customer about their car being repaired, that I want to make it as seamless as possible, as smooth as possible, and just give them their car back right, fixed, as quick as possible, so that they understand what would happen, and then they're not thinking about, well, the price is going to be less if I give the guy cash. Almost feels slimy in a way. Um, if I'm telling the guy, "Hey, give me cash," it's almost like, "Hey, nobody's going to know about this. Give me cash, and we're just going to put this, off to the side." I almost feel that way when it's proposed to me. In my So I kind of feel like I just want to keep everything on the up and up. Allow him to pay how he wants to pay at the price I told him, and if he wants to pay cash, great. But if he wants to pay credit card, then the fees, and I'm going to eat them.
Lou, have you thought that kind of thing through? Have you thought about that?
Yeah.
Tell
Yep.
me about your
So,
experience
my,
there.
my take on this is, I know in my community, every collision center charges now a 3% fee. We've seen dealerships, multiple dealerships now charging 3% fee. At some point, I think it will get. I don't want to be the first to this game. I kind of want to show up late to this game. When it comes to it, I would see people advertising a cash discount, but to me, what's the point of offering a cash discount? Because then it's the same thing as taking a credit card. Looking at a lot of times the discount was more than the fee that you pay, because a lot of people charge 3%, but my average is 2.2%. So, to do the math, a lot of times people would say, "I'll give you a cash discount," but it's more than what you actually pay in a credit card fee. And I don't ever want to commingle those things. Everything we put through the books. I don't want any baloney with having the track or ever have to look back with anything. But at some point, I think we will. And when you look at it, I mean, geez, $40,000 will be. Last year, we were just around the same point. That's a lot of profit. I was just share with my team, if we're not I just use the numbers easy. If you're a 10% net business, using for easy round numbers, that's $400,000 in revenue that's gone because of credit card fees. Right. So if you're a 20% net business, right, that's $1,000 in revenue it takes for you to net of your credit card fee. So it's a big number, and it's something that you have to look at. And I look at it net. You could look at it gross profit. How it impacts that. It would be a lot less impactful when you look at the gross profit side of it. But on the net side, I look at it on the net side, and that is where I think of, well, we have to be extremely efficient in how we bill and what we bill to make sure that we do get paid for our time. Um, I love the numbers of the business. When I take myself out of the business, you know, uh, this past July was my first month where we had a 32% net profit when I removed myself. So when I look at my business, I look at my business as an investment, and I remove myself. I remove what I take out of the business, and what does this give me as a return on a given month? And that's how I look at that. So I do feel our industry, we well run well. I think our target is to be a 30% net business. But if I can recoup this down the road in a way that, again, I guess, not make a customer feel well when they leave here. Because one of the things we tell our team is, like, every person on our team is the CEO of first and last impressions, and we focus on how we make people feel. And as what Kevin said, like, you don't want somebody to feel like they just got hit with something that they're unaware of. And I think it's complicated to tell, here's your estimate, it's $850, but if you pay with a credit card, it's going to be 875. And I don't know. It's just one of those things. Maybe it's not a problem. People are so used to it, or people are getting very used to it. I mean, you pay a fee pretty much everywhere else you go. Doctors, restaurants, you name it.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Let's talk about that real quick. When's the last time each of you went to and ordered a restaurant or a pizza, and you got hit with the fee, and how did that make you feel?
I've seen it.
Go ahead.
I've seen it at restaurants, and sometimes they don't necessarily, they call it something, a service fee or some other fee, but they hide it.
Convenience.
Well, yeah, essentially. But it doesn't make me feel good. When I go and I want to have my soda and my beer or my burger and walk out, I want to know that I'm paying for that, and I'm going to tip my server. But now when I see those fees added on top of it, I feel like, what are they doing? They're hiding stuff on me. And listen, our fees are legitimate. Our hazmat fees, we are getting rid of oil, we are getting rid of filters, and there's a cost to it. We all know that every time you're doing an oil change, you're using brake chemicals, brake fluid, car cleaner to wipe things down, so rags. There are legitimate fees for it. But a service fee I've seen on there on a restaurant tab, and I didn't know what it was. I bought my dinner, I bought my drinks, I have my tip. What's the service fee for? And are they just hiding it in there? I'd rather just see the burger go up by $1, and I just know now that it's 16 instead of 15. Food's gotten expensive.
You see, I think that's where we are coming from on that, right? And so, Mitchell, I need you to jump in here because you're a little bit younger than us, and so your response is going to be potentially a little bit different. I want to hear from your age group. But what I'm really hearing, Kevin, is that you're not upset about the fee. You're upset about the oops, there it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not upset about the $16 burger. Actually, you should be upset about the $16 burger. Like, where are you getting your burgers then? $16.
They're expensive.
So anyway, they must be good. But so in all seriousness, though, I mean, it's more about the surprise, there it is at the end, right? So that's kind of the frustration for us. Mitchell, what are your thoughts on that? How do you care? Why?
It's kind of interesting. I've noticed a big difference between like age of customers. Like, we have a older clientele of customers, and a lot of times they're the clientele who are paying cash. And then we'll have, younger people like myself who come in and they really don't care. They just want their car fixed and they want to be back on the road. And they're not opposed to the fees. It doesn't seem to affect them. From what I've seen,
How often do they know the price how often you told them the price before they got into the shop to get their car back?
as far as the fees go?
No, as far as Kevin mentioned the water pump. I'm getting a water pump replaced in my Jeep at your shop. You realize that it's an issue. You're going to call me and tell me how much it's going to be before I get there, or you're just going to replace it and then I get there and then I pay it.
No, we send an estimate, and they have to
estimate.
And
on that estimate are the fees included?
Correct. That's right.
So again, I'm starting to hear from everybody that it's not so much passing the fees; it's a matter of how you communicate whether or not you're going to pass those fees. It's making sure that you're transparent in advance. And on that estimate, are you actually letting them know that there's a cash discount?
No, it's not listed on the estimate as a cash discount. It's more like in person. It's really such a small percentage of our clientele that it's really the same people over and over that are paying cash.
Give me some cash. I'll lower the price. Is that how it goes down?
Not really. More is like, here, we'll pull off the 5% off.
I think that's tricky too. When you start just with theft and is that really scalable to do stuff like that? And it would create something to where, for myself, that I would have to start thinking, it's almost like your guys are wheeling and dealing, the repair order, and there's so many ways to steal, but that makes something real easy when you start doing stuff like that. And
It's interesting. You might need to monitor your service advisors.
yeah, I don't, so many places now you go don't even accept cash, right? Everything is credit card for the mere reason of theft. Like go to any sporting event, it's no longer cash is acceptable.
That's where I spent $16 on a burger the other night at a Phillies game.
Yeah.
No cash.
Well, that's where you went to get that $16 burger,
$16
$15 burger plus fees.
Yeah.
Got it. That makes more sense.
Funny part is I tried to tip in cash, and I didn't have change of a 50. That's all I had. I couldn't find cash anywhere to give the girl a tip. I'd rather give a cash tip to somebody that's a server.
Right.
I asked 4 people before I finally found a guy that had cash to break a 50.
Okay. Well, and so, all right. So I'm thinking about like back to my experience on, again, it's the surprise, right? So I go to a particular orchard, for example, get my apples, get my some of my produce and that kind of thing from a local place. And when they made the change, I had wished that I had followed them on social media, because then maybe I would have known about it. I don't know that they posted it either way, but I found out about it and I had to pay the fee the one time. Now I make sure I stop by an ATM before I go there, just to get the cash that I need just for that. Cause you're right, Kevin, I'm not walking around with, with $500 sitting on me to go about my week. And so, yeah, so it was the surprise that actually got my attention, but now I've changed my habits and you're not talking about a ton of money, cause I'm not spending, $500 or $600 there, but even still yeah. So now, like, again, back to the pizza places. Well, here's how it works for our family. If my wife has decided that she wants to order out, then she can pay by credit card and it can be her fee. I don't care. But if I'm paying, then I'm paying cash. So it's not my problem. But I think you're onto something, Mitchell, is that the age demographic is kind of where we're noticing the difference. Do you know the average age of your customer, Kevin?
Oh God, that's a good question. Average age, and we have a range. I don't. I mean, we've been around for a while, so we've had customers that were my father's customers, that the few that are hanging on, and we have their kids and now their grandkids. So it's a mix of ages. Great question.
Okay. Lou?
I've never asked. I mean, to get that, we would have to ask everybody. I'd be spitballing it just by feel.
Right.
Where we were, I've never gathered that data.
Okay. Sorry, I'm seeing the survey question on the bill. Do you identify as a millennial, as a boomer, as a
so where do you come in at?
That's the way to politely ask their actual age, right? Is just how do you identify, right? So anyway, the silliness of that. So, but yeah, no, I think that if you looked at the average age of your customer and you looked at your typical ticket or repair order, that might be a clue as far as whether or not dual pricing would work for you. But if you were to explore dual pricing, it sounds like, did I get your opinion on this, Lou? As long as we know up front and it's not a surprise at the end, we can make ourselves feel a little bit better about that yucky feeling as we walk out. Do you agree with that, Lou?
Then it's your choice at that point, whether you want to continue to move forward with that or not. And
well, that's interesting. Would you switch shops? Would you switch restaurants? No. So Kevin, you know of 2 places inside of Citizens Bank Park, and obviously this isn't going to actually happen, but one actually had a fee on top of their $15 burger, and one had no fee on top of their $15.50 burger. And you know that going in, do you walk a little bit further to get to the $15.50?
I don't know. I'm a burger guy, so if it's a good burger, I'll pay the extra 50 cents, right? It's hard to say. I mean, like I said, it might leave that sour taste in my mouth. If it's a significant amount, I might consider. If it's a small amount, I'm just going to go where I'm going to go and enjoy it. So yeah, I think I would. I don't know if I would consider a hard consideration on that.
Okay. And this is not related to credit card processing, but the game that you were at, was that the game that they clinched the division, or was that
that happened out in LA last night. No, I was there last week and they played the Who the heck they played. I don't know. I got a season ticket, so we've been down to a bunch of games. Last Monday night, whoever they played last Monday night, that was my game. Friend and I went down and we grabbed some burgers and beers before the game.
Was it the Mets?
It was the Mets. It was the Mets. Yes, it was game one of the Mets with the Four Seasons.
Number 2 in their division. Okay, but still, what, 12 games behind or something like that. So that's why it's already.
I'm not a big fan of baseball, but I appreciate the game.
I do have Brad. I have a good friend of mine that owns a catering hall, weddings and big events and parties, and it's a large place, been around for a long time. And him and I got into the conversation of credit card fees, and he charges them. So his expenses are much greater, $30,000, $40,000 events, and he lets his customers know right up front that he charges for them. So he takes a deposit, credit card fees in there, the middle of the before the event starts. Same thing, and then at the end, and they pay it all. Credit card fees all get absorbed right by the customer. So 3% of whatever the event is pricey, but he says he gets no pushback on it at all. And I don't know if that's industry, the norm, but in his industry, it's big dollars.
And I have, like, not to say it's a pass, but I recognize how hard it is to be profitable in the restaurant business. So we used to own a gas station for many years. We've since sold that off 5 years ago, and recognizing, again, looking at what our profit was per gallon, and then with the credit card fees it was right. And you understand, like, wow, I wish I could have charged for that. But I almost, in a restaurant field, I almost feel I give them a pass on that, because I understand, like, their margins, like a best practice restaurant in general. I think in general, restaurants probably make under 10% in a net profit a year with a ton of volume. So when I look at that, I kind of understand. I said, well, it's in order for them to be open, have the good people they want, have the good food they want, they have the profit they need to make in order to stay open. To me, I accept it, and I don't. That's how I guess that's my perception. That's how I choose to look at it, and I accept that. When I go out to say restaurants per se, but I ask now, wherever you go places, sometimes I do take advantage of paying with a credit card because I get points, different things. But I always ask, am I going to get charged a fee for making this purchase with my credit card? Some places know immediately, and some places, that's a good question. They say, I don't know. I run into that a lot. And so, but again, if I can make my decision, on it, it goes from there. And if I get really good service, again, talking on a $50, a $20 transaction, it's 60 cents, with 3%, right? So I'm not going to worry about it. But when you have a $650 transaction, and now we're talking $18 to $20 and a fee, right? That's a different thing, to where some people may be sensitive or some people may not care.
No, $18. That's a value meal at McDonald's.
Yeah.
The back to the restaurants. I'm wondering, I don't know this. Do collision centers charge a shop supplies fee, hazard mat fee?
Well, they do charge this
traditional transportation, where they would be going up.
I've been out of it for a bit, but again, that majority of that's insurance pay. So what is approved by the insurance company will be there. I know locally they do charge a percentage now, because so many people will, that they get their $5,000 check from insurance company, then they come pick up the car. My uncle charges 3% in his collision center when they come to pick up the car and pay, whether it's a deductible, whatever it may be, if they do pay with a credit card.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Here's something that I just made a couple of notes on it. But pre-COVID, during COVID, and after COVID, how people perceived a lot of fees. Of course, before COVID, I don't think anybody charged for credit card fees, not that I knew of. But once COVID, happened, it seemed like everybody was using their credit cards. It was all contactless payment, no cash, couldn't touch any of that. So credit cards became the norm. I know prior to COVID, I wouldn't put many things on credit cards. If I was out and it was a $50 bill, I'm paying $50 in cash, or small items on my credit card. I only wanted my credit card for the larger purchases. After COVID, or dog night at the ball game, you can't buy a dog with a dollar bill. You got to buy it with a credit card. So you go down and you're buying, $4 in hot dogs. I would never do that before, but it's become the norm. And I think the fees now are starting to become, so after COVID, all those fees that were there prior are still there. So people just got accustomed to them. So I think this is new. This credit card fees after the fact. We never spoke about that 10 years ago. It was just our cost, and it was the cost of doing business. Today, it's, well, if I can pass it on to the customer, I will. Some do, some don't. Like I agree with Lou. I don't want to be first to the game. I'll wait if we have to do it until everybody's doing it, and then I'll feel better about it. But don't want to upset the apple cart.
Are you guys in touch with the competitors that are your immediate competitors? Do you know which ones are and aren't, and how many they are? Are any of them doing it?
Independently, I don't. I just know dealership wise because they've notified
Okay.
the notifications, and I know collision centers is pretty customary in my area.
I can speak for my family in the shops that they're in, the other family. They don't. Nobody charges that fee right now.
Mitchell, are you the only shop in town that's charging this fee, or does everyone do it?
I believe it's a common charge. All the two other shops that I have experience with also charge credit card fees.
Okay. And how far away were those?
Probably about
Miles, 2 miles?
Oh, no, probably more like 20 miles. But this is also Denver, so there's a lot of shops concentrated within Denver, and then you have the suburbs where it's similar, just
Right.
a little bit more sparse as far as population.
Okay. And are you how many times? I mean, Denver. Are people like right now flocking there to get snow tires put on, winter tires put on?
Not yet. I would expect that probably end of this month into next month.
Okay. All right. And are you storing those tires for them, or like when they swap them out, they take them, they take them home, put them on their deck?
Correct. A lot of customers I've noticed are using actually tire storage, where they'll drop off their tires, for the year or 6 months that they're switching out their tires, and they store them. I'm not exactly sure where it is, if it's a storage yard, but a lot of customers use these tire storage facilities where they actually deliver the tires for the customer to our shop.
So interesting. Our place has gotten so small that we don't have space for that. Okay, because I imagine they're paying that storage fee, and I wonder if they're also charging a credit card fee. And as far as like, if you do the math, I mean, don't pay the fee so that you get the rewards. You're upside down. Like the cost, the 3% is greater than the reward that you're getting. I mean, there's few exceptions to that, but but that's kind of like when I look at my own rewards, I'm like, well, that's you do the math and you're like, well, that doesn't make sense just to pay the fee to get the rewards. But maybe if you aren't as aware and you are a fleet manager and you're not actually connected to the bottom line, maybe you don't care as much. So Lou, can you speak to whether or not your fleet customers would care? Maybe they would just want the report. It just goes to the bottom line. The accounting handles that. Who cares? And I get the individual report, individual points. So, did you follow what I'm saying there?
I did. That's a tough question to ask. I think your smaller fleets that are independents, people that are money conscious and look at that it might rub them wrong. It may not. I've not ventured down that path, so I do not know. I'm going to say 50% of our fleets are through third party, through a variety of, Element, Enterprise, so you can't charge a credit card fee on those anyways. But I don't know. It just really depends the sensitivity of the person who's paying and what their rules are.
Yeah. Are you far enough north to have to worry about swapping out the tires and with it?
Yeah. Yeah. We get about 120 inches of snow a year in that range.
That sounds nice. Well, don't you think, Kevin? Let's go north. Come on, let's go.
A little bit of what we get here is enough for me.
Yeah, nobody's switching their tires around here. Nobody. No, we're not. I mean, the reality is they don't know how to drive in it anyway, so probably shouldn't. So, yeah. All right. So I personally, I'd love to drive in the snow. I think it's a lot of fun. But I'm a little bit of an outsider in my own area. So is the average ticket smaller on tires?
No, I think tires are expensive. I think you're, really going to be getting $600-800 easy on tires, not counting sales tax.
And with tires, what's the margin look like? Are you now comparable to the restaurant margin? If you're primarily a tire shop, and is your margin smaller than a repair shop? That's what that's what I'm thinking, Kevin. Yeah. But Mitchell and Lou, you have experience with this now. I mean, are your margins? Is there more elasticity with tires up north because of the season change, or is the margin smaller as I'm expecting it to be?
The margin is smaller than like service work on tires, just from my experience.
So, and Lou, I was just thinking about what you were saying about how restaurants, the net profit margin, right, is so small. I'm wondering if someone is primarily a tire shop, if this is a no-brainer for them, that they need to be passing this along because of how small their margins are. Is that it? What are your thoughts on that?
It could be. Tires represent roughly about 7% of our revenue, and but it's not a huge percentage of our revenue, and
Right.
we average roughly 23 to 25% gross profit on our tires. So again, it's more than half. It's half of what we get in our normal parts, where our normal parts margin is, which is roughly about 54%.
Okay. All right. Mitchell, what is your experience with when it comes to that? You said that the margin is smaller.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit more about that?
I would say we're pretty close to Lou, probably between 25 and 30%.
Okay. Okay. So it's still more than the restaurant business.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So if a shop is trying to figure out whether or not they should do this, I think one of the things that we've already pointed out to them is that if you were to go with a dual pay type scenario, giving them options as far as whether or not they pay by take the fee or that they pay a different way. And cash isn't the only way for them to avoid that fee. There are digital forms of payment. I don't know what all of them are, but I know that they exist. The real key is being upfront about it so that there's no surprise, so that there's no yuck feeling afterwards. Like right there, boom. And that's kind of why Kevin and Lou have taken the attitude of we're just going to increase our shop rates. So whether it's the supplies or whether it's the hourly rate, right? Just work it into your numbers. And whereas the Mitchell at Maple Garage, they're putting that in as part of their shop supplies fees, but it's included in there. And I don't know whether or not maybe that's I don't know what the rules are in Colorado as far as how you're allowed to actually list that, but it is something that you need to be aware of as far as how you're listing it and what your state rules are, as Lou mentioned, and how they even relay the shop supplies.
I think
what other questions should these shop owners be asking of themselves before they determine whether or not they should do this?
I think one thing to consider is what your shop rate is in comparison to your competitors. We tend to fall a little bit below our competitors. As far as our hourly rate, we're at 165 an hour. A lot of our competitors are closer to the 185 to 200 an hour rate.
Oh, that's interesting. What about you, Lou?
We rarely ever get asked what our shop labor rate is, but when I look at it, just understanding what the cost is right now and making sure that we can hit the profit numbers that we're looking to on our percentages. So like recognizing what this is. So again, this number right now that's calculated today of $15.26. So when we analyze what we're going to be doing next year with our labor rate increase, looking at what our targets are for gross profit percentage, parts margin, tire margin, and looking at shop supplies, we could figure this out by massaging a little bit between all four of those areas to rather than just say I'm going to increase my labor rate $5. Well, we can do a lot of different things, and through all different, through those four different avenues that we can definitely not absorb that, but we can do better than where we were last year. Understand? You have to know the number. I think it's important, and I think you got to know your community. I just came, a lot of people, and was kind of drilled down my throat of having a $2,000, $3,000 average estimate, and the stuff was being drilled down. I said, but you got to know your community. I recognized, people love coming to our facility, but when we were getting training and moving forward in that direction, I think we scared people. People loved our service, loved what we did, but they're afraid to bring the car here. And you just have to know your demographic. You got to know your community. You got to know what's there. So, we switch back to what we feel is right for our community. I think the same thing applies to credit card fees. You just got to know, we got to know our group. We got to know who we're dealing with, and, people that use us for service and what their take would be. And I think any business owner, any manager has a good feel of that, being in their building for as long as they have.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. It goes back to not just knowing your community, but being aware of who your customers are. And I like what Mitchell said about aware of what's that?
Know your crowd. That's
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But also know what your competitors are doing, because if you are at that 185 side in Denver, and then you're trying to add it on top of that, you're going to get more pushback than someone who's at 165 plus 3%. Like, that's still less than 185, right? So, yes. so anyway, all right. So good. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that we didn't cover, that if shop was trying to figure this out for themselves, they should go call their merchant account or their merchant processor and ask for the options. I would imagine that you probably actually have about 3 or 4 different people per week calling on you saying, hey, I can get you a better rate. So you might not even have to go to your processor. You just talk to one of those calls that come in. But is that true? Are you guys getting hit up that often?
From week to week, you get the calls.
Okay. All right. Is it in person or is it over the phone?
Phone.
Okay. Do you prefer that, or do you prefer them in person?
Well, they want to set up somebody to come in person most times, so they'll take the phone call first and then try and get a person in front of you.
No, but I'm saying, like, for that initial contact, what is your preference? Would you rather a sales rep who's just pounding the pavement for a third-party ancillary service that's not directly related to shop supplies or parts? Would you prefer them to call first, or stop in and show them they're smiling?
Well, if they're coming into my shop, they're not getting me first, so they're going to get my service advisors, which means they're going to take up their time. So I would rather a phone call first. And if it's worth me talking to them, then I would talk to them.
And then you're filming pretty much every meeting.
Interesting. Mitchell, you feel the same way? You're nodding your head.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that part, though. Kevin that's a good point. Yeah, honestly, just the spam, the consistency of phone calls does get annoying. So for that point, I'd like to talk with someone in person, but I think Kevin makes a great point. You don't want people up there who aren't paying customers. They're not marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Lou, do you get a lot of contacts for trying to change your credit card processing?
We do. We've try to do the best I can of training my team. Our time is not renewable. If somebody just walks in, we're always respectful, but they won't interrupt me. They would say, leave your car, we need to make an appointment, as opposed to me coming down, going through a spiel. So training my team they've done a good job now to say, well, he is not available. Meeting with him is by appointment. Please leave him your card. If he's interested in communicating with you, he'll reach it back out to you. And that's kind of where we leave it at.
Oh, that's very polite. Usually I think that people just say that Lou's on a test drive. He'll get back to you.
No, I always want to be polite, because we have people, I have a business development who goes into businesses, and, I want the same amount of grace as to give to people. Even I have zero interest in what they're offering me, I still give them the grace, because when we walk into a place, I hope people do the same thing to us.
Right. Okay. All right. I appreciate that. So, all right. So, bottom line, maybe it's worth checking out. Maybe it's not. Know your community, know your crowd, know your competition, and
know your number. You got to know what this costs you. You got to know your numbers. And is there other things that you can do in your business, not to get hung up just on a credit card fee? Some people can get so hung up on it, and there's so many other pieces of your business that you can improve upon and just increase your profitability to where this becomes a non-issue. Again, if it's a sticky subject.
that's a reasonable point. That's a great point, in fact. All right. Well, so let's close this out. Is there anything? If there's nothing else on this particular topic, I've got an unrelated question for you. I already mentioned it, in October, the SOP, the shop owners panel, is going to be about politics, right? And actually dealing and navigating with the local municipalities and the importance of being attentive to it prior to your need for expansion. And then in November, it looks like we're going to be talking about how to document your processes, how to actually document your process. If you are trying to have a book or a manual of how to do different things, where do you start? How do you actually get that process started? And to me, that topic still needs to be honed in a little bit more. I need to, because it's so broad. I mean, we could start in so many different areas. If you were going to start your process, if you were going to start documenting your processes, what process would you want to start with to start trying to document it?
Are you asking a question, or is that we?
I am asking. I don't know whether or not you actually have a book of processes that's available for everyone, but if you did, what would be page 1? Where would you start?
My book has never ended. It constantly is either getting rebuilt or built, added processes, changing processes, or honing them.
But let's pretend you don't have any of it. Let's say you've got to start from scratch. What's the first process that you're going to document?
Question, I got to think back now. I mean, I try and start front to back. So I go over most of my processes on how to with my counter, but I don't know. I have to look back.
Start with the front desk. Start with the beginning of the customer. How about you, Lou? What would you say? Where would you say would be a good place to start?
That, again, first impressions are the most important thing within. There's so many pieces of it. Our process book is it's all web based. We use a system called Way We Do, where we've built it out through there. We have our onboarding, we have all our priming. If my garage door, the spring of my garage door breaks, there's a process for that, where I have 3 different vendors. So just getting that detail, again, making your business scalable. If I'm not going to be here, eventually, if you were to remove me, can we operate at a high level? Do we need that type of interaction? So that, the thought process went into the process we developed for that.
Right. Yeah. When we first started the business, I actually had a document called "If I Get Hit by a Bus." Doc. That was the name of my document. And it had the bus was not the most likely thing according to my doctors, but but it had a list of what's next, for who to take, who to do where, and what to do where with what numbers. Mitchell, do you guys have a written down process?
Right now, we do not.
Okay. All right. And so what do you think if we had a podcast about how to make process documents and where to start? Front desk would be a good place as any to start.
Yeah, I would say start of the sales process is probably the best place to start. So
interesting. All right, well, good. So that's probably going to be the November topic. The last question I have for you, and then we'll just wrap it up and say goodbye to everybody, is what other topics would be helpful for you to hear on, say, the December or January podcast, that panel? Do you have any particular topics that you'd like to learn more about or hear discussions on?
I'd love to pick Lou's brain as far as expanding to fleet accounts and diversifying that way.
Great.
Okay. Mitchell. As well as the way we do, Lou, I looked into that and I didn't see I don't want to say value, but there was so much to it. Did you create your own Way We Do, or did you work with somebody that did?
We did. I worked with somebody initially, but we created, I think the key is to create your own.
Yeah.
Because then it's customary. Like, for example, I want to be able to get to, like, knowing our history. If I'm not here when we onboard somebody, to understand the whole history of when my father started the business, to know what we're about, to understand what our core competencies are. Going down that's the level where I want to take it to where again, if I'm not here, we're able to demonstrate what, who we are and what we're about.
Do you find that your employees use that when they need to? Like you said, a garage door is broken or the alarm doesn't work, or it's
my leaders do. So we've been building this for about a good year and a half. our target is launching this to where this will be the first place you look. We're not at that. We're not at full 100% integration yet, but we're working our way there. It's just so much. There's so much to build in there, which we've been doing, and you do it. At different times, seasons. Some seasons we have a little bit more gap and time to work on it, and then there's other priorities that come up. So, yeah, I would probably say we're about a good 60% complete of what I want in there. We still have a ways to go, but it's something for the future, and it's something that will provide us, fill that need.
Yeah, I started doing something similar in Google Drive, creating something similar to what Way We Do does. But I did like it, but the gentleman that showed it to me, there was so many sections of it. I felt like you could get lost inside there real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes that's the case when you have any kind of software or platform that's trying to service everybody.
Yeah.
Right. You're trying to meet everybody's needs, and you end up with so many different features and options. It gets kind of watered down. All right. So, but for future podcasts, obviously, process documentation and how to start and those types of things sound like a really good topic. And as also how to expand, if that's of interest, into fleet accounts sounds like a reasonable topic. Is there any other topics off the top of your head that it would be interesting to hear a handful of shop owners talk about?
Maybe recruiting technicians.
Okay.
I don't know what that looked like as far as whether it's working with
What's working and what's not working.
or figuring out which recruiting methods work best for candidates that are a good fit.
So that's a great topic, and much like this topic, we've actually talked about this topic before, but it was almost 2 years ago at this point that we talked about it. About 3 or 4 months from now, it'll have been about 2 years since we talked about how to recruit top talent. And so you feel free to go back and listen to that podcast, but it's a great topic to revisit because things change. And so I think that's a great suggestion, Mitchell. And I think attached to that is something else I've been kicking around. I've talked to a handful of different people that are trying to tackle the supposed technician shortage, and they have 3 different approaches. And I kind of want to bring them on. They're going beyond just helping in their shop, but trying to help the industry at large. And I kind of want to bring them on for a future podcast so they could tell their stories together as far as what they're doing. Because I think it'll take a lot of us to try to attract more young people into the trade. And so I think that's a worthy topic too. All right. So we've kind of chatted long enough about credit card processing, and specifically about whether or not to pass the credit card fees onto your shop. If you're trying to kick it around, it's worthwhile reaching out to somebody, maybe hear from a couple of different people, but definitely make sure that you've listened to this entire podcast. And if you have additional questions, you can jump into the Facebook group, the Garage Grit Facebook group community and ask there. Stay tuned. We are dropping episodes every Tuesday right now. In the month of October of 2025, we might start dropping 2 episodes per week. And all of these are shop owner panels or origin and impact stories, all worthwhile hearing the different lessons and whatnot. And so oh my gosh, I missed 5 episodes. That's because you're not subscribed, and you need to fix that. You need to go and click that notification bell. You need to subscribe to the channel on where you prefer to listen to it, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. We're there. And thank you for paying attention to this episode of the Garage Grit Podcast. Mitchell, Kevin, and Lou, thank you for your time. I appreciate you. Thank you for being a part of it today.